Morning, everybody. I'm Russ Howell. I'm the CEO and Senior Security Practitioner for Health Secure IT. We're based out of Blackwood, Ohio, up in the outskirts of Columbus. We do a lot of the same things GABE does for healthcare, which is probably either as regulated or a close second to finance. You've all heard of HIPAA. You've all filled out those forms every time you go to the doctor's office. We help provide insurance and compliance, policies and procedures, and base IT security functions for a lot of medical practices and other businesses. The other thing I like to say that we do, we're the best bad guys you'll ever meet because we do the penetration testing, the red teaming. We try to break into businesses to help them fix their IT and physical security holes. I graduated from RIO in 91 and 93. It's changed a lot. And I have to mention that in 1992, I took an elective here for my bachelor's degree that was called entrepreneurship. And there was a professor by the name of Buckingham, who was a professor here then. And he really lit the fire in me to become an entrepreneur at some point. So after a few years at Fortune 500s, I bailed out, and here I am today back at RIO as an entrepreneur. So great school, and I really enjoyed being here. And I'd be happy to talk to you about what we do between the breaks or after this is over. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ryan Lippe. He's from Mike DeWine's office, the Attorney General's office, and he's going to talk to us about elder fraud and identity theft.
Thanks so much. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I have a newsletter that you guys can sign up for if you have an email address. We don't mail it out in postal mail anymore. We're taking a grasp of the future as well, and we're doing email to save money. If you're watching this on TV, you can easily get to our website and click on all of the editions of the newsletter, including the current edition, by going to ohioattorneygeneral.gov. But I'm going to send this around, and for people that are here in person, feel free to sign up for our newsletter and just make sure I get this form back at the end of the session. You can help pass that around. And I guarantee it's not a scam. That's the one thing I'm going to talk about. It's not a scam today. So I'm Ryan Lippe, and I'm with the Ohio Attorney General's office, and I'm specifically with the Consumer Protection section. And fortunately, we heard from the Attorney General, Mike DeWine, the 50th Attorney General, earlier, so I don't have to go through a lot of what our office does. He actually also informed you about some of the scams, like the Grandparent Scam. I'm going to elaborate a little bit, and most importantly, I'm going to give you some tips on how to spot those scams, as well as maybe some common red flags and how to protect yourself. So when we deal with consumer protection, we're talking about trying to ensure that it's a safe marketplace for consumers. It deals with everything from buying a used car to buying a timeshare to literally buying a cup of coffee. You want to make sure that you're being treated fairly. And we also heard earlier on about storm chasers. The Attorney General mentioned the folks that claim to be doing home improvement work, and they take large down payments and do either a shoddy job or no work at all. We also see problems with advertising. Right now, motorized vehicles is our #1 complaint category, so advertisements with motor vehicles obviously can spark some interest. Also, advertisements for something down the street at a buy one get one free sale is important. Let's say they double the price of the first product to make you think you're getting buy one get one free. So we did take about 27,000 calls last year in terms of consumer complaints. Again, the #1 complaint category was motorized vehicles. You'll see a couple of other things on this screen. Number 7 was identity theft. We're going to talk a little bit about identity theft later. And number 8 was potential scams. Things like the phony sweepstakes, phony grant offers, things where they want you to pay in advance for the hope or the promise of getting something that doesn't exist, like $1 million. We do have an economic crimes unit. They deal more with the criminal end of the law. Most of our office deals with civil law. But the economic crimes unit is for those special cases where you're thinking these people ought to go to jail. You know, they did a crime that's so heinous, like what the Attorney General talked about with the ticket sellers that didn't have any tickets in Coshocton County. Thousands of dollars was lost by consumers in many states across the country, not just in Ohio. These are our current poster children for the Economic Crimes Unit and why they exist. This is the Circleville gang. And Bruce McFarland is on the left, and Herschel Mumma is on the right. And they did a home improvement scam where they stole about $137,000 from 25 different victims. And it was a home repair scam where they would go to door, promise all kinds of work, accept a big down payment or the sign over of an insurance check, and then they wouldn't complete the work that they promised. And not only that, in this particular gang of thugs, they promised that they had already somehow destroyed the check of a consumer's or failed to cash it, or it was mishandled or lost. And so they encouraged that consumer to write a second check. So when, of course, it came down to it, they cashed both checks and ran the other direction. So again, $137,000, 25 victims. McFarland, I think he's doing 7 years, and 6 or 7 years, and Mumma's doing 6 or 7 years. And the other folks that were part of that collaborative effort, they're also doing various penalties as well. But do I think somebody's probably filled their shoes? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why it's so important to make sure that home improvement folks are legitimate. There are some common tactics that we see in a lot of scams. First of all, a lot of these scams involve a request for a wire transfer or a prepaid money card, like a MoneyGram or a Green Dot or a Vanilla Reload card, Western Union. Those are tempting for scammers because it's like giving someone anonymously cash and then running the other direction. We wouldn't do it on the street, but they try to get you through the phone to do the exact same thing, either doing a wire transfer at a local convenience store or department store, buying a prepaid money card and giving them the digits off the back of it, which lets them access the money in a virtually anonymous way. So these are ways where scammers can essentially get cash out of you without anybody really knowing who they are, and with very little, if any, recourse for the consumer, especially if the scammer is overseas. Also, a lot of the scammers want personal information. At this point in time, we tell seniors not to take their Medicare cards around with them. It has the Social Security number right on there, plus one letter. That's what your Medicare ID is right now. So any request for personal information, even if it seems to be an innocent sweepstakes, now more than ever before, please be frugal, be skeptical in terms of giving someone any personal information. Even something like your cell phone number, your email address, your birthday. Find out if they have a privacy policy. What are they going to do with that information? Are they going to buy it and sell it, or are they going to keep it to themselves? Also, a lot of scammers want you to act immediately. They put pressure on you. And especially if they're trying to victimize an older American, they can really feel like they have to do something to save their grandchild or to protect their identity or to make sure they don't go to jail. A lot of these scammers will pressure a senior, telling them that they're going to be immediately arrested or arrested in a certain amount of time if they don't do exactly what they're told. Also, requests to keep the information a secret. If you're like me, that's a red flag right there. That's when you do tell somebody, not when you keep it to yourself. If they ask you to keep the conversation a secret, big red flag. One of the biggest scams right now we see in terms of volume is an imposter scam. And they'll imposter anybody from the FBI to the Ohio Attorney General himself. Right now we're seeing a lot of the Internal Revenue Service, IRS scam, and or the U.S. Treasury. They'll call and tell you you owe some kind of penalty or some kind of past due tax, and then they'll threaten to arrest you or throw you in jail, like a true debt collector or the true IRS would probably never do. If you're getting a call from the IRS out of the blue, it's most likely a scam, and if you have any questions, hang the phone up and find the legitimate customer service number for the government agency or the organization they are purporting to be. Call up and verify whether that is a real phone call or not. Also, don't trust your caller ID. These days they have what's called caller ID spoofing. And that's where you can buy into some technology, especially if you're making an internet-based phone call, where you can say you are virtually anyone and have it appear that you are that person through the caller ID text and number. So if I tell you that I'm calling from the Veterans Administration in Washington, D.C., you could spoof that caller ID so that you see a 202 area code. You could even see government or Veterans Administration in the caller ID text. They use that to help build up their story. Or they'll use maybe a local area code. Maybe they'll use a 740 area code to make you think that it's someone local in the area. We've also had reports from consumers that see 911 on their caller ID screen. They see their own phone number or a neighbor's phone number on their caller ID screen. That really tempts them to answer the phone call. So essentially, imposters will use that as a tool to get you to answer the phone and or to help bolster their story that they are who they say they are. Also, don't provide personal information. Again, if you think it's someone that might be legitimate, still hang up the phone and call back using a number you know. If they say you're your bank, hang up, call the phone number on the back of your credit card or your debit card or on your account statement, or go to what you know is the legitimate website, get the phone number there, or call the library. Call a local resource that you know and trust to get the information. And again, you want to call back using a legitimate phone number. We see a lot of fake check scams as well. You can buy check paper at Staples, Home Depot, or Office Depot, places like that. It's real easy to steal the corporate letterhead or the corporate name and address, to get routing numbers and account numbers that may even seem legitimate at first blush to the bank. We see a lot of fake checks, fake corporate checks, fake company checks, fake cashier's checks that purport to be from banks. Whenever you're dealing with a check, and these days, you're probably not going to be dealing with them very often. A lot of people use electronic payment methods. So if you're selling something on Craigslist, selling something on an online bulletin board, it may be rare for you to get a check. So it might stick out as a red flag if someone's trying to use that payment method. But always call the bank issuing the check to verify the funds. What they try to do is sometimes they'll try to overpay for an item. They'll give you a story, or they'll ask you to do them a favor and to take the excess amount and wire transfer it somewhere, or buy a prepaid money card and send that off, or give the numbers to some type of shipping agent. It's almost always a scam. They're simply trading their fake paper, which is a fake counterfeit check, for your real money, hoping you'll deposit it. The bank will at least see that it's legitimate enough to put it into your account temporarily. But the way this works is, after a few days, maybe even a couple weeks of having access to the money, the bank security department discovers it's all a scam. The check was counterfeit to begin with. They suck all that money back out of your account. So never send off a portion of the funds for any reason. We do see a lot of the computer repair scam as well. This fits right into what Gabe was talking about with internet-based scams. They'll call up and say that they're Microsoft. They'll say that they're Windows. They'll say that there's some type of tech support system. So never allow remote access to your computer from a stranger based on some kind of cold call claiming that your computer has a virus. Nobody's going to electronically know that you have a virus, but what they want is to get your remote access to your computer and to either steal information off of it, put viruses on your computer instead of take them off, or, as Gabe mentioned earlier, the ransomware concept, where they will lock your computer up until you pay hundreds or thousands of dollars in ransom to get access to your computer back. And that's a very effective scam. So remember, callers can't tell if your computer has a virus. And also, a really good website that we can endorse because it's sort of a partnership, staysafeonline.org. They have some online free examples of legitimate software that can scan your system and give you sort of an immediate readout of whether things seem unfamiliar and suspicious. So staysafeonline.org is one of those sites that we feel comfortable with telling consumers to go to, find more information about keeping their computers safe. Also, there's a treasure trove of resources just by calling your manufacturer, visiting their website of your computer manufacturer, your router, some of your other equipment in your house. Sometimes your internet service provider has more information and more concepts like encryption and firewalls and things that you need to enable in your own home. The Attorney General talked about the grandparent scam. He did a great job demonstrating that the grandparent scam continues to be effective. So if you are in a position where you might get a call from your grandchild, get a password between the two of you that only the two of you know, or ask them a question that only the grandchild would know. And there are some variations to this scam. Sometimes the imposter will say, I don't sound like Jim because I've been in an accident and I have tubes in my throat, and et cetera, et cetera. Or they'll claim to be a bail bondsman or a police officer or an attorney for the grandson or granddaughter. So always ask them a question that only the grandparent and grandchildren would know. Confirm with their family. Again, if they tell you not to call anybody, that's the time when you need to get on the phone, confirm that it's all a story, that it is truly an imposter. 99 times out of 100, again, the child's going to be safe. He's going to be on a legitimate vacation and no harm is done. He's going to be in school. He's going to be at work. He's going to be in the home. So don't waste your money. A lot of times they'll want that prepaid money card. I've seen them deal with iTunes gift cards. I see them deal with Western Union and wire transfers. Again, those are the payment methods you never want to use with strangers. It's fine if you already know the person and it's a relative or a good family friend and you know them in person, but again, it's like giving somebody cash otherwise. We do see a lot of family and friend scams as well. It's not always someone that's brand new to you, like through a cold call. Sometimes it can be a caregiver, someone that is close to you, like a friend or relative. If you start seeing the use of credit cards without permission, if an older person is getting pressure to sign over a deed, or if there's forged signatures going on, those are signs that there could be a family and friend scam. The article we see here was from the Columbus Dispatch in around 2009. It dealt with the case of Peter Savaldi, who was a 94-year-old, very frugal former employee of Anheuser-Busch in Columbus. He had saved up a lot of money. He was very frugal. He wore the same pair of hush puppy shoes for 40 years. At least that's what the article says. He had a one-bedroom apartment his whole life. And he was bilked out of over $800,000 when he befriended a couple of younger ladies. They would go out, they'd be seen having a good time together. They, at some point, got him to sign over power of attorney. And so they bought and sold 5 different vehicles during their friendship with Peter Savaldi. They paid for a $166,000 condominium in Dublin, Ohio. They got cosmetic surgery with his money. One of the ladies paid off her own IRS debt with his savings. So over $800,000 went out the door once he signed over that power of attorney. Who finally caught them? A banker. The security department of a bank saw these very suspicious transactions of thousands of dollars going back into the scammers' accounts, and they were finally able to shut down the scam. But again, that's after $800,000 and after he had signed over power of attorney for a long period of time. Some signs of a scam: if bills go unpaid, especially with an older person. Usually folks pay their bills on time. If you see their spending habits change, if you see unusual banking activities, the money may be going somewhere else. It could be going to a sweepstakes scam artist. It could be going to someone else with nefarious goals. Also, the new best friends. And again, unusual banking activity. Those are signs that there could be a family and friends scam going on. Also, if there's belongings missing, a lot of times people write that off and say, oh, they're more forgetful in their older age, and that may be true. But again, you got to be asking questions, you got to be proactive and pry a little bit to see whether they might be being scammed. Identity theft. It's when a person obtains and uses your personal information without your permission to commit fraud. It's not just loaning someone your credit card, telling them to go buy you a candy bar. That would be with permission. And it's not merely being a victim of a data breach. Now, most of us have probably gotten letters by now from a Target or a Home Depot or an Anthem saying you're a victim of a data breach. It makes you more vulnerable, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a victim of identity theft. But should you be taking proactive steps? Absolutely. Some warning signs of identity theft. If you're denied credit and you know you have good credit, if there's unauthorized charges you start seeing on your bills, if debt collectors contact you and they seem legitimate, now I will tell you there's a lot of scam debt collectors out there too. Never give money to a debt collector until they've provided you proof in writing that you owe the money, that it is consistent with your memory and your paperwork, and make sure you find out who the original creditor was and try to figure that out using your own financials, your own paperwork, whether it's an honest debt collector or simply a scam artist. Also, if you receive unfamiliar bills, let's say you get a bill from a credit card you never opened, or if you no longer receive a bill for a credit card, most of us would say, oh, that's wonderful. No, it's a sign that it may be going to someone else, or it may be in your unlocked mailbox and someone's taken it out, stolen personal information in that envelope. Also, I think the number one way to combat identity theft is to check that credit report at least once a year. The good news is it's free. You are entitled, as a resident of the United States, you are entitled to a free credit report from all 3 credit reporting agencies at one particular website, www.annualcreditreport.com. Check that out. Look for any banking information or bank names or loans that seem unfamiliar to you. Question those errors and make sure that you report any identity theft to the Ohio Attorney General's office. We do have a program to help victims restore their identity. You have to fill out a police report, which you should always do if you're a victim of identity theft. There's a little bit of other paperwork. There's what's called an identity theft affidavit to verify that you yourself are citing that you are a victim. And then we can go to bat for you. We can contact debt collectors. We can contact creditors, credit card companies, and help restore your identity. It can be quite a burden without that type of assistance. We also have a self-help kit as well for folks that want to do it themselves. But if it becomes too onerous, which it oftentimes does, they can then turn back and have us go to bat for them as the Ohio Attorney General's office. Reduce your risk. You don't want to volunteer information. You want to shred documents. Some communities have their own shred it programs every so often. If not, make sure your information is shredded using a crosscut or confetti, one of the more sophisticated types of cutting agents, so that you're shredding all documents with your personal information. Get each other gifts of shredders for holidays. I'm being serious, because everybody needs to have at least access to a good shredder with all the pre-approved credit card offers we receive in the mail, all of our personal information going back and forth. Gotta shred it. Monitor your financial statements. Create a mail schedule. If you really want something to go in the mail and not into a scammer's hands, take it to the post office. I know that sounds like a burden, but the fact is being protective and being proactive isn't always easy. Take mail out of the mailbox as soon as you get it. Don't leave it in there all weekend. If you're going on vacation, stop the mail, have someone check your mail, do whatever it takes to keep that information in your hands. And also, don't carry extra personal information. Just like what I mentioned with the Medicare card, don't carry your Social Security card, don't carry your birth birth certificate. Take as little as possible, only things you'll need that day. If you're going to the doctor's office and you know you need your Medicare card, take it. But if you don't need it, nobody's going to deny you medical care because you don't have your Medicare card. So that's one card in particular these days. We're really warning people when they get to be that age, be very, very picky about when they carry that Medicare card. How am I doing with time? A few minutes? Some online safety tips. You probably heard from Gabe enough about being aware of unknown attachments to emails, downloads, pop-up windows, links that you don't recognize. We've had cases where a phony funeral home will send out an email saying someone close to you has died. Click on the link for more information. Phony court notice. Hey, you've got a court date in Gallia County. You better show up or you're going to be arrested. Click on the attachment for your court notice. Anything that will tempt you to click on a link to activate malicious software they're going to be using. And of course, watch out for scam websites and emails. It's real easy to recreate a bank or an insurance company or a technical firm. You can steal those logos, steal disclosure statements. Even some of the links may be valid. Again, they can recreate those overnight, send out a phishing email hunting for people that may have an account, tempting them to click on a link and put in personal information. So again, if you see something asking for your mother's maiden name and your PIN number and your account number, delete the email, delete the trash can, call the bank at the phone number that you know is legitimate. All right, just 5 consumer rules to live by. These are like the 5 R's of consumer protection that we always try to get out to the public. Number 1 is research companies. Use the Better Business Bureau, use the Ohio Attorney General's office, research those companies before you let someone in your home to do home improvement work or buy a used car. Research the reputation. Also read the fine print. Don't do anything until you know what the fine print means, and it's not always the salesman that you want to describe the fine print. They're going to tell you what they think it says, according to their own view. You want to get an attorney, someone you trust, someone with a good set of eyes and brains to be able to figure out what the fine print means to you. Also, remember your rights. Is the 3rd R. Reconsider your purchase. Be skeptical before you go through with an offer, especially if it seems too good to be true. Anybody going to clean your chimney for $10? Anybody going to, those are too good to be true offers that you need to question. And if someone's going door to door saying they're home improvement, is that really the company you want to deal with? You know, the good folks are probably going through word of mouth and they already have a good reputation. They don't need to resort going door to door. Finally, report fraud. That's my 5th R, is call the Attorney General's office, whether you have a scam to report or whether you just have a legitimate gripe with a merchant where maybe you've lost money and you want a refund. We do have an informal dispute resolution service where if you've lost money or if you don't see eye to eye with a merchant, we can help you out. It's not a court of law. We can't force anybody to take action necessarily in your individual case. When we go to court, it has to be on behalf of everybody. But we can help them learn your position, and hopefully they can at least meet you in the middle. And Ohio Attorney General, and our toll-free number is 800-282-0515. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And have a good day.